the Salem witch trials that took place in Salem, Massachusetts, in America. Now, here we have people with probably the right heart attitude, but reasoning horribly and making terrible mistakes in judgment. So between June and September of 1692, there were 6 men and 14 women who were eventually convicted and executed. 19 by hanging, by the way, nobody was burned at the stake in the United States, because English law called for the death penalty for witchcraft, and hanging was the most common. There were 150 others plus who were imprisoned, but the whole thing finally ended in September 1692. So it's June to September was the trials. And in September it ended when the governor, William Phipps, dissolved the court and said enough of this insanity. And the colony's leading minister ended the witch hunt, and those that remained in prison were released. And the judge that was presiding over the trials confessed his guilt in the way he handled the whole thing about 5 years later. And in 1711, the colony's legislatures made reparations to the heirs of the victims, and they annulled the convictions.
So what happened here, Michael? Like, what drove that? When you see people suddenly wake up and become sane again, they look back and they said, "Here's what happened," or "Here's what we did," or So what was the problem?
Well, we were in a different context where people did believe in witches, and it looks like in this case it was mostly the accusations of children that were believed by adults. But it's still mind-boggling. It's still mind-boggling. Just mistake after mistake. There were problems with relatives of the accusers being in the juries. And there were just so many things. Once we get into the causes, we're going to see it is really hard to nail down. In fact, the only one thing that historians are agreed upon is that there's not just one thing that causes the witch crazes in the different places. But in this case, it was the accusations of children that were taken very seriously. And there's theological misapplication. And it only lasted a year, 1 year witch hunt. 16 people prior to that time had been hung for witchcraft in New England. And then in that 1692 time period, 20 were executed. So you got 36 people executed and 150 approximately imprisoned. And I mean, I don't want to do anything that would make anyone think I am diminishing or minimizing the horror and the impact of that, not just on the people involved, but on all the implications of it for everyone around. But we're talking about 36 deaths, not millions, not hundreds of thousands, not even hundreds. It's 36. So it was not a genocide, and that word has been used.